Hello, and thanks to our chair, Cheryl Heller, our thesis advisors, Mari Nakano, and Archie Lee Coates IV, and our cohort class of 2019. A special thank you to Karen Proctor, our family, and our community in Jersey City, Michelle Massey, Sharon Felton, Barbara Camacho, and the many grassroots activists working on the ground. We're Jelynne and Zoe, and we will take you on our journey in creating our social intervention called From the Block. You're here at the moment, but for 10 minutes, we are going to take you across the Hudson River to a city that I grew up in. My family settled here in the 1980s from the Philippines. And by looking at how close Jersey City is to Lady Liberty and Ellis Island, you can imagine that we followed a long tradition of cultural migration to this part of the world. This tradition, we're happy to report, is still a reality today. Jersey City was named the most culturally diverse city in the entire United States in 2019 by WalletHub.com. But a closer look at its socioeconomic diversity tells a different forecast. The areas highlighted in darker blue in the lower part of this income map shows the concentration of higher income residents in downtown Jersey City. This income group is making over $100,000 annually. Downtown is saturated with high-rise residential and office towers. This redevelopment began decades ago, with a sharp uptick in the last 6 years. This increase came at a cost. Black and brown communities did not share in the economic revitalization. This conclusion came from the disparity study, also called the Croson study. And it took 10 years to complete by 2011, just as a new wave of redevelopment hit the downtown area. 2 administrations did nothing to correct the disparity, and today the original 10-year study is going to be studied again under a smaller scope. This is the community that stood to gain the most by correcting the disparity. It's the Jackson Hill district in Jersey City. It's predominantly African American and Latinx on the cusp of redevelopment.
Welcome to Jackson Hill, home to locally owned businesses, generations of families, and American history. But there's also a growing issue. There's also a list of growing issues. One of the concerns we found in the area is parking. Something even as mundane to city life as a no parking sign will be the focus of our case study on displacement and the negative impact of top-down policy. The first thing we did was ask residents about their experience with parking. This person was displaced due to increased ticketing. Unsafe conditions. Unsafe conditions are surfacing as people are desperate to find a parking spot. And this person was unable to pay for a ticket online and had to see a judge. He took the day off of work just to pay for a simple parking ticket. The citizens don't know why this has become a problem overnight, but this lack of information, combined with decades of inaction by the city, is causing mistrust. Last year, Jersey City adopted a Vision Zero policy for safer streets. Its goal is to have less cars on the road and zero traffic fatalities by 2026, but it also added punitive measures like increasing the cost of fines and 24-hour ticketing. The residents we spoke to had never heard of this policy, but were feeling the effects. As social designers, we set out to get clear on the impact of city policies and asked ourselves this: when government plans for safety and sustainability, what gets lost? Meet Michelle Massey. She's a native of Jersey City, an advocate for the district she lives in. She's the director of the Jackson Hill Improvement District, and she knows firsthand how these measures are affecting people who work and live there. Michelle said, "To advocate, I need the knowledge from residents. You have consultants assessing that don't know the neighborhood or the backstory. Jersey City is constantly bringing in new people, not from the city, in positions to make decisions." Michelle's role is as a community liaison, and because she spends most of her time communicating between the community and the city, she needs a formalized way to collect data unique to her community.
So we created From the Block, a civic engagement tool to support activists in elevating local knowledge to shape city policy. We intended for the community to inform our design. So we began with Sharon. She's a resident and a retired school teacher on a fixed income. Last year, she paid $400 in tickets. She's also an activist and the president of her block association. And so we wanted to better understand their daily living and use mapping to visualize it. Common themes for needing a car emerged, such as caretaking for loved ones and lack of access to fresh produce. They also use their car for safety. The areas circled in red are spots with high occurrences of shootings at any time of the day. This led us to ask the community to define what safety means for them. They define safety as a walkable neighborhood. In fact, this is where citizens of Jackson Hill and the Jersey City government have a shared goal, to have a walkable city. But the government misunderstood the community's definition of safety and jumped to conclusions by promoting less cars when residents use their cars to avoid street violence. This missed opportunity to create a shared baseline definition of safety is coming at a cost. Vision Zero is increasing ticketing for citizens, which is bringing about economic loss and inequity for this lower income community. In 2016, Jersey City collected $14 million in parking tickets, mostly from no parking signs, and now stands to make even more.
Community lived experience is getting lost in city policy. Michelle is aligned with community needs and wants to create a parking plan for residents. With this shared goal, From the Block is connecting citizens to city government with Michelle as the liaison. It uses digital mapping as well as Google surveys to capture data from activists in her neighborhood. Michelle likes mapping because information gets lost and people sometimes cannot perceive a problem with just words. In April, Sharon held her block association meeting, and when talking about parking problems, one of her members shared this observation. They lose spots, also by inefficient parking. So Sharon chalked her street and measured on average losing 3 spots to inefficiency. Before From the Block, it would be unclear how to share this community-informed solution. But now, from her stoop, with her iPad, Sharon can share it directly to Michelle using From the Block. Michelle sees the possibility and says, "This goes beyond parking and displacement. We could engage the community in ways outside of a public meeting. I want to share this with the councilman." From the Block took a data point from a resident and channeled it straight to Michelle, who then is able to use her connection to the councilman.
It fosters communication exchange. It could start with city planning or policy to be shared by Michelle, and using From the Block, she can quickly educate her district about new policy that might otherwise remain invisible but impactful. Most of all, she can ask important questions to collect data, and all of this combined could shorten the time that it takes for Michelle to advocate back to the city. It creates a new reciprocal line of data exchange and makes space for residents to participate outside of City Hall meetings. From the Block also visualizes this data through digital mapping. This map is an example of how residents are leaving Jersey City to buy fresh produce and groceries. This goes beyond Sharon and scales out to other activists and the residents that they advocate for. You may have noticed that Sharon always had an iPad with her. Sharon is digitally connected, and so are her peers. And it's through them that vulnerable residents who have no internet access are able to share and receive information about policies impacting their neighborhood. We focused on one relationship, but social capital is an asset that Jackson Hill has in abundance, as we saw in the value they place on caretaking. From the Block took a community strength and elevated it. Through our work, we've seen how even something as small as parking can be disruptive. Building these relationships that has created community resilience takes time. And this is what's at stake. This is what's lost when people are displaced.
We believe that co-creating shared baseline definitions makes government more effective and connected with community. Through our work, we've been seeing the inequity left in the wake of top-down policy. Human equity is when outcomes are not predictable based on someone's identity or characteristics. Since the start of this project, we've been hearing how there is nothing that can be done to stop displacement in the context of gentrification. We believe this doesn't have to be the case, nor should it be predictable.
Thank you.